Hey guys, how's it going? Mr. Bernard here. So we're going to be doing factoring again. So we're going to start off today's factoring lesson with some GCF. What does that stand for? It is the greatest common factor. So what exactly is that? So let's jump in with an example to get started. So let's find the GCF of 10 and 15. Well, how can we go about doing this? Well, let's just find the factors of each of them individually. So factors of 10, we have 1 and 10. We have 2 and 5. Do we have anything else that could go into it? No, so we'll just leave it at that. And let's look at the factors of 15. We have 1 and 15. And we have 3 and 5. And that's it for that as well. Well, so we want to know what factor is the greatest of both of them, so that they both share in common. So in this case, 5 and 5, and I forgot my 1 from before. So, and that's it. That's really it. So that's the GCF of 10 and 15. We can extend this, though, beyond just whole numbers, and we could go to variables as well. So let's try it with some variables. So let's find the GCF of x squared and x. Well, what are all the multiples of both of these, all the factors? Well, for x squared, we just have x squared and 1, as well as x and x. And then on the flip side, for just x, we only have x and 1. Well, they each have x in common, so their greatest common factor is x. And now we're going to build on top of that just a little bit more. Let's find the GCF of y cubed and y squared. So in this case, we have y cubed and 1. We have y squared and y. And then it would just be, the reverse of that. So y and y squared. And then we don't need to rewrite y cubed and 1 again. And let's take a look at y squared. So we have y squared and 1, as well as y and y. Okay, so, well, the greatest common factor that they share is y squared. In this case, so now we're going to jump to an example. We're going to combine all three of these previous ones together. So we have, let's do this one in yellow. GCF of 10x squared y cubed and 15xy squared. Now this looks like it would be pretty intimidating, but we can use the previous three examples to help us out. So we know that the GCF of 10 and 15 was 5. So the way how I like to recommend you guys to go about this anyway is first take a look at the leading coefficients. So in this case, 10 and 15, and we know that it was 5 from before. Then we're going to take a look at all the variables that they share in common as well. So we have the x squared and our x. And so we also have x. And then lastly, we have y cubed and y squared. and we said the GCF between them was y squared. Well, all we have to do for this is just combine them all together by multiplying. So our GCF of these is 5xy squared. And that's it. Now, once you guys feel comfortable doing this with binomials, and we can extend these variables on and on and on we can have 3 variables attached, we could have 4, we could have 5, we could have many. But once you guys feel comfortable with doing a monomial, we're going to be able to move this over to factoring a polynomial with GCF. So doing so is essentially like the distribution, but in reverse. So let's take a look at an example of it. So let's find the GCF of 4x plus 8y. So how could we go about doing this? Well, like the previous one, let's take a look at the leading coefficients to see if we can find any common factors. So what are our common factors? Well, let's just find our factors of 4 and 8 first. So factors of 4, we have 1 and 4, 2 and 2. And our factors of 8, we have 1 and 8, 2 and 4. And then, vice versa, 4 and 2 and 8 and 1. So what is our greatest common factor? Well, we have 4 in both of them. So let's just pull the 4 out. So we're going to write 4. Now, what can we multiply by 4 in order to get our original? So in order to figure that out, rather, we have to divide each individual term by what we're pulling out as our GCF. So we found our GCF to be 4. So now we want to factor this. So that would be the first step. So now to factor 4x plus 8y, we want to divide each term by 4. So 4x divided by 4, we're going to get x. And then 8y divided by 4, we're going to get 2y. So we have our 4. And what would we need to multiply it by? So from dividing each individual term, so we would multiply it by multiply it by x plus 2y. And what would we get? Well, this is just 4x plus 8y, which is our original binomial. So now we can work on some examples that are a little bit more tricky and that build on top of this. So our first one that we'll take a look at, we have three ab squared minus 6a squared b. And we want to factor this. Well, let's first find the GCF between the two. So let's take a look at the leading coefficients. We want to factor 3 and we want to factor 6. So let's do this over here. And you know what? Let's do this in a different color as well. So 3, we have 1 and 3. That's it because it's a prime number. And then for 6, we have 1 and 6, as well as 2 and 3. So greatest common factor is 3 for the leading coefficients. So we know we're going to have a 3. Then we're going to look at the a terms. We have a and a squared. Well, what are our factors of those? A is just going to be a and 1. A squared is going to be a squared and 1, as well as a and a. So what's our greatest common factor here? A and a again. So we'll have 3a, and now let's take a look at our b. So it's going to be very similar to what we just had. B squared is going to be b squared and 1, or b and b. And b is just going to be b and 1. So what's our greatest common factor here? B and b. So we multiply them all together, and we know our GCF between these two terms is going to be 3ab. Now we have to divide each term individually by 3ab. So 3ab squared divided by 3ab. Well, the 3's divide each other out as well as the a's. And so b squared divided by b is just b. So let's start drawing our parentheses. Minus. So we have the subtraction sign here because that's what we have over here. And let's also divide now 6a squared b by 3ab. So 6 divided by 3 is 2, a squared divided by a is a, and b divided by b is 1, so we don't need to write anything there. And so we'll write our result over here. And this is now the factor. And how can we check our work? We could just redistribute, and we should get our original question. So 3ab times b is going to be 3ab squared minus 2a times 3ab. We're going to get 6a squared b. And it matches our original, so we're good. Example number 2. We're going to take a look at 9ab squared minus 6ab minus 3a. So we're adding another term, but this won't change anything really. So let's take a look first. What can we pull out as our GCF? Well, let's take a look at the leading coefficients. So for 9, we're going to have 9 is 9 and 1, 3 and 3, 6, 6 and 1, 2 and 3, and 3 is just 3 and 1. Well, what is the GCF of the leading coefficients? 3. So let's write that. And it looks like they all have an a in common as well, as we can see here. And none of them are a squared or anything greater, so we just have a. And our first term has a b squared, second one has b, but our third term does not have a b in it at all. So we can't claim that as a common factor. So now we need to divide all three terms by just 3a. So 9ab squared divided by 3a, we'll have 6ab divided by 3a, negative 6ab rather, and negative 3a divided by 3a. So let's take a look at our first one. 9ab squared divided by 3a. 9 divided by 3 is 3. A divided by a is 1, so we don't need to write anything. And b squared divided by just 1, because there's nothing to divide it by, so we can bring it down. So we get 3b squared. Negative 6 divided by 3, we're going to get negative 2. A divided by a is 1, and we'll bring our b So minus 2b. And negative 3 divided by 3, we're going to get negative 1. And a divided by a is 1, so minus 1. Now if we redistribute, does it match our original? Let's take a look. 3a times 3b squared, that is 9ab squared. 3a times negative 2b is negative 6ab. And lastly, negative 1 times 3a is negative 3a. So it does match our original. So we're good here. And our third example, let's factor 15a cubed b squared c to the fourth plus 30abc squared. So this one, definitely a lot trickier than our previous ones that we were looking at. So if you feel comfortable with this one, everything else will certainly feel a lot easier. So let's look at our factors of 15 and 30 because we want to start with our leading coefficients to see what we can start pulling out. So for 15 we got 1 and 15. We have 3 and 5. For 30, we have a lot more factors. We have 1 and 30, we have 2 and 15, we have 3 and 10, we got 5 and 6. So let's take a look at our common factors, and let's see which one's the greatest, which it is 15. So let's write that. And now let's take a look at our other variables. So we have a cubed. I'll write that in a different color. A cubed and a. So we have a and 1. Then we have a cubed and 1, a squared and a. And it would be a and a squared again. So what is our greatest common factor between these? So it's just going to be a. So we have 15a. And let's take a look at b. So b squared, and we have b. B squared and 1, b and b, and then this is going to be b and 1. Well, what's the common factors? Greatest common factor is b in this case, so let's write out b. And lastly, c. We'll do in blue again. So we got c to the fourth and c squared. So in this case, we have c to the fourth and 1, c to the third and c squared and c squared. And then it's going to be c to c cubed and c again, and 1 and c to the fourth. So we don't need to rewrite those. And our factors of c squared are going to be c squared and 1, as well as c and c. So what is our greatest common factor? Well, c squared. So this is what we're pulling out as our GCF. And now the hard part is we have to divide both of these terms by now 15abc squared. So let's look at each term individually. So we got 15a cubed b squared c to the fourth divided by 15abc squared. So 15 divided by 15 is 1. A cubed divided by a is going to be a squared. B squared divided by b is b, and c to the fourth divided by c squared is c squared. So let's draw parentheses, and let's write it in, a squared b c squared. And our other term, we had 30 abc squared divided by 15 abc squared. So 30 divided by 15 is 2. A divided by A is 1. B divided by B is 1. C squared divided by C squared is also 1. So we just are left with 2 as our answer for here. And if we redistributed it, you would get 15a cubed b squared c to the fourth plus 30abc squared. And that's our final answer. If you guys have any questions, feel free to ask Mr. Zwirling or ask me. Thank you.